Hello. So in this video, I'll talk about the signature assignment for Math 100, which is your course project. All right. So let's see what this course project is all about. All right. So most of the details you'll need to know is in this document called Math 100 Course Project. All right. So basically, what you have to do is to pick a topic from one of these two options. Okay. So option number one is a topic that you see in chapter 9, chapter 10, or for further exploration sections found at the end of chapters 1 through 8 in the textbook. Option two, however, is basically any kind of mathematical application or topic that you find interesting in any field of your choice, whether it's sports or arts or medicine or whatever the subject you may be pursuing, or it doesn't have to be your major field, but many people do choose something from their major. Subject to approval, of course. I have to make sure it's okay for you to pursue this, that whatever the topic you pursue. Okay, so there are basically these two options, and what you do, the assignment itself is to do this: create a brief oral presentation using some sort of a visual aid, such as PowerPoint and Google Slides. All right, so I will give you more examples later, but that's what this assignment is all about. And it is a significant um, portion of your grade. In fact, as this document says, this project is a major assignment worth 10% of your overall grade. All right, so, and it's scored out of 50 points. So you get, if you get a perfect score, it's 50 out of 50, and that would count as 100% in the, this category called the course project, which itself is 10% of your overall grade. All right. So what you want to do is to make sure you do well. Okay. And this is one opportunity where you can pursue something that you are interested in to create a presentation and then get a very good score. Okay. So some details here. I'm not going to go through all of these. Make sure you read this document. All right. It is an individual project. You do not work in groups. Each student must turn in or first you have to make a brief oral presentation between 2 and 3 minutes. You record it and then you submit it in Canvas, right? And the use of visual aids, as I said before, is required. All right. When you do your presentation, assuming that you have had your topic approved and you did some research, you put together a PowerPoint presentation or whatever. And by the way, you don't have to use PowerPoint or Google Slides. If you want to, rather show your hand-drawn pictures or graphs or something, that's okay too. So I do not want to penalize you just because you may not be as savvy in technology. All right, but here's the important point. When you do your presentation, do not, okay, let me repeat, do not just read from a script verbatim, word for word. Okay. In other words, what I want you to do is to talk to me as if you are in a natural, casual conversation with me, telling me what you have learned. Okay. So make sure you don't read from a script. This is not a formal speech. Okay. Just tell me what you have found and what you want you want me to know, or you want your audience to know about your topic and the topic that you chose to describe that mathematical application. All right, so that's basically it. Okay, so let's go to option one. Option one is where you pick a topic from many topics you found in chapter 9, which is on advanced topics of mathematics. Some of them are quite fascinating. These are things I would call cool topics of mathematics. Or chapter 10, which is a collection of topics on international mathematics. All right. Or one of the sections called for further explanations. Okay, these are sections found at the end of chapters 1 through 8 in the book. Okay, for instance, in chapter 9, you'll have like six sections there. One of them is One of them is called the four-color theorem, a very famous theorem in the history of mathematics. Number two, section two was on infinities. You have infinitely many things, but it turns out there are many levels of infinities. 9.4 is Russell's paradox, which is a logic problem. You also have a section on non-Euclidean geometry. They seem to be kind of difficult, but if you're interested in, these cool advanced topics of mathematics, you may want to look through chapter 9. Now, chapter 10 has about 20 sections, maybe 21. It's the most recent addition to this book, and so it has a list of international topics, such as the Pythagorean theorem. Did you know that this theorem you probably heard about, regarding these right triangles? Did you know that it has more than 300 proofs in the world? And why, would people spend time trying to prove something that's already been proved, right? Musical scales from around the world. You can talk about geometric symbols and symmetries found around the world, throughout history to represent clans, families, countries, and organizations, for instance. We have sort of the language, especially foreign languages. How do they count numbers? Um, there's another topic in mathematics and literature, cinema, and theater. Some of you may have been fascinated by like movies or a theatrical play or a book regarding some topics of mathematics, and those are in section 16 of chapter 10. Gambling and mathematics, and this goes centuries, millennia back into the ancient times. Right. So these are some of these international topics that you may find interesting. For further explanation sections do also have these interesting topics. At the end of chapter one, you have a section on fallacy of appeal to consequence, some interesting piece of art history, for instance. Chapter two is about really, really big numbers. Chapter four is about risk and irrational fears. All of these things, can be considered as you choose the topic for your signature assignment. Now, option two, as I said before, is to find mathematical concepts or applications in any field, right, including what you find fascinating. It could be from art, sports, music, government, politics, finance, media, all sorts of things. In the past, many students have chosen option two. And what they have done, for instance, include things like mathematical applications in politics, such as gerrymandering, which you see in chapter 8, voting. These have become very, very important, especially in recent years. Mathematics in firefighting and prevention. That's an interesting topic. How about water management? How is mathematics used in these, civil projects such as firefighting and water management and urban development? Fractals in nature and fine arts. Golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence, of which you studied in chapter 7. Some people have done things like animation, movies, computer graphics, and how mathematical concepts are used in these areas. Sports, golf, baseball, basketball, all of these sports use some sort of mathematics, and so maybe you can explore those things. All right, so I hope it's clear. If you don't have it, if you have any questions about option one or option two, please reach out to me and I will be glad to help you. I can even give you suggestions based on what you're interested in. All right, and very quickly, on page 3, you'll find the grading rubric. Whether you choose option 1 or 2, you use the same grading rubric based on 50 points. All right, so the duration, if your if your presentation is less than 2 minutes or more than 3 minutes, you'll be penalized. So make sure that your finished product, your oral presentation that you submit is between 2 and 3 minutes, okay? And then make sure that the presentation is being carefully and thoughtfully prepared. In other words, you didn't rush to finish that in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. Spend a lot of time on this. I think you will be quite interested and you will be happy that you have spent some time on this. The video must show the presenter has a clear understanding of the topic and so on. All right. Now notice here, you have a lot of points on these two categories. The presentation contains a sufficient amount of mathematics. Okay, so make sure that your project has enough mathematical content. And then the mathematical content is accurate and easy to understand. So these are where many points come from. But again, you make sure you speak in a relaxed and conversational tone. And very important, on your last slide or picture, you have to cite and document additional sources used. Okay, in other words, yes, you can look at a topic from the book, the textbook, or some other source that you may be familiar with. But make sure you use multiple sources, and I want you to list those sources that you used and cited, um, and make sure that the sources are well documented on your last slide or picture. And all together here, this is going to be worth um, points, out of 50 points. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please contact me. This is your course project worth 10% of your entire grade. So I hope you do well, and I hope you will find many fascinating, interesting applications of mathematics.